Mom and Liz were right to threaten to call the cops. You're a criminal.
Maybe.
Only in a certain light. Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're new here. My name is Death by Pony. Today we're hopping back into our lives. So without further ado, let's go. Baxter was hesitating on mentioning exactly how much he was going to be around. Your parents had no clue you'd brought your boyfriend home to meet them. You gave him the go-ahead with a nod. You shook your head, took his hand supportively. Baxter's my boyfriend. You couldn't keep blurting it out. We let him. And before anything else, I do want to mention that James and I are in a relationship. You asked James out again? No, it was my idea. We've been together almost a whole day.
You need to understand.
I wish to be with him as well, of course. I don't intend to waste the chance. The revelation had your parents newly dazed. Just when they'd relaxed, the Baxter Ward factor managed to knock them off their balance again.
Goodness.
She's just like, oh, here we go again. Talk about a dark horse. The pair of wives focused on each other doing their mom thing, where they came to a decision about having to talk about it out loud. It hit you that you were able to do that yourself with Baxter a minute ago. Wow. Ultimately, they smiled gently over to the both of you. That made you smile too. You figured your parents would find it easier to accept Mr. Ward unexpectedly waltzing into your life once more. From their real grown-up perspective, Baxter was practically still a baby 5 years ago when he left his not ideal impression. They didn't have reservations on getting to know him again now, and you got right to that. Both you and Baxter worked together to recount your wedding planning adventures, going over the entire story, nicely illustrated the absolute week you had. It wasn't even 7 days. Mom were an emotional roller coaster, visibly distraught when you described how cold Baxter was originally, and cheering when he explained the moment you officially reconnected, as if they hadn't already known how it had ended. You got to hear what they'd been up to lately, as well as, it was the same old for them, which was exactly how they liked it. But much too soon the day was over, and you needed to start the trip back to the city. Your mom simply appreciated that you stopped by, and at all wished you a safe drive home. They promised to tell Mr. Holden you said hi when they saw him next. Baxter and you said goodbye, then headed off. Neither of you had eaten since the cafe, so you found a place for dinner in the area rather than going all the way back to the city. When you were done with yet another stop and back in the car, it was well into the night. You'd been away from home for at least 12 hours. One might have thought after frantically finishing a wedding, the day after would be completely less jam-packed. Nope. It had been your 5th or 6th subsequent day of squeezing every last minute of the day for all it was worth. You couldn't keep track anymore of how long you'd been tossed about by this whirlwind of activity. Your charming company in the flurry didn't bat an eye at the pace. In fact, it hadn't budged a hair out of place. Its perfectly styled head. The darkness of the world and the lateness of the hour meant Mr. Ward had reached his height of energy. It was under these circumstances when Baxter offered up a new proposition.
Does that sound alright?
James, what did you say about going dancing with me? Huh? He elaborated. I spent the whole day of wedding working, if you recall. Even though we stole a little time after the event and had finished, it was hardly comparable to having a night out together, especially when you consider the circumstances that lingered between us. And we can't forget that you'll be leaving soon, and I'll have to start new client work shortly, so why not take advantage of the moment we have together now? Here you had been thinking you had already made the most of the day. Apparently, Baxter considered your gallivanting around 2 towns to be just a lead up to the yet-to-come grand finale. I get that, but where could we go without signing up for it ahead of time? And actually, would something even be open this late anyway? Nighttime dance clubs in SoCal aren't exactly known for their formal ballroom dancing. That gaping hole in the master plan couldn't fluster Baxter, as expected. I know a place. Now, it wouldn't be as attractive of a location as the Adams affair. However, it is entirely functional for our purposes. To add to the effect, we could visit the apartment and change into something more appropriate. Don't you think it's a shame you haven't gotten a single chance to wear a true suit yet? the standard everyday look doesn't even have the same impact. The car stopped at a red light, and Baxter made the most of that opportunity as well, turning his head to face you directly. His expression was hopeful. It could be our first real date, and at least the first for our second time being together. That'd be nice. About time. I can try. All right, but only for you, Baxter. You nodded immediately. Give a shrug. Why not? That'd be nice.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. He chirped sweetly. But when his eyes went back to the road, he was smirking devilishly. Baxter channeled his growing energy into the taut grip on the wheel. Finally, I have a partner I can dance with whenever we wish to. The light turned green, and he hit the gas, your back pressed into the seat from the rapid change in momentum. There would be no rest for the wicked. It all made you snicker. His enthusiasm never failed to delight. He arrived at the apartment building, went straight up to Baxter's floor, and through the front door of his place. Without needing to reiterate the latest scheme, you and Baxter slipped off into your respective rooms. You fancy. You, dressed a bit nicer than your norm, dressed formally, dressed glamorously. Glamorous. The chance to wear this special outfit didn't happen often, but you always packed it in case something unexpected materialized. And you were eager to find or create a fitting reason when the situation allowed for it. The wedding wouldn't have been appropriate since it was Jude and Scott's time to shine, but thanks to your preparation, you were ready to dazzle. Digging hastily, you found what you needed in your suitcase and shook out any wrinkles that might have been hiding there. It was ready to go. When you were dressed, you found Baxter already waiting in the living room. He lifted his head, and a thin smile pulled across his face. Of course, he would know how to put on a suit in a flash. Brown! Baxter was dolled up in a sleek, stylish brown suit that highlighted his eyes rather than trying to distract from them. And tonight they looked clearer than ever. Stunned, speechless for a moment, Baxter admired the sight with a grin and came with praise. Ugh.
Bravo.
James, I must admit I'm equally impressed and surprised. I had no idea you even had an outfit of that caliber on hand. I learned from the best. They managed to surprise him yet again, so you added a teasing nudge with your elbow. Baxter shook his head, but struggled to contain his amusement. Are you secretly judging me right now? Because who are you to judge another person for bringing fancy clothes they might not need on a vacation?
Never.
I would never. Criticize me or pack like there might be a surprise red carpet event at the beach. Baxter dropped his face into his palms and laughed at your remark. Slowly, he rolled his head to the side to peek at you. Both, and you're stunning. You're dressed excellently. I didn't expect a brown suit for you, but not in a bad way. Your suit's cool, you beamed at him. You looked him up and down, applauding. He knocked it out of the park. I have such a handsome boyfriend. Not in a bad way. Didn't expect a brown suit, though. I know what you mean. I found it an exemplary piece to wear when I want to step outside the lines of black tie formal. He idly adjusted the cuffs on his suit jacket. Your eyes followed that movement. I've been told the set is an attention grabber. Automatically, you glanced up and caught the gentle curve of his smile.
So,
Shall we go? Time to paint the town red. I can certainly work with that plan. On that note, the two of you left the apartment behind and gallivanted off into the city. It was exhilarating to run off with little warning. Who knew where with Baxter Ward by your side? You felt all of 18 years old again. You had no idea just how deeply you missed this. The engine cut off and Baxter's latest mystery location was unidentifiable. Closing the car door, all you could see was a small empty lot and a few street lamps, keeping it lit. This lot sat behind a huge building, but from this spot you had no way of knowing what the inside could be. The back was entirely non-distinct, just an imposing white wall. Here we are? Yes, there's a door ahead. Baxter led you away from the car and towards the back door. You'd missed entirely in the shadows. He opened it with a little effort and slipped inside. Perplexed, you stood there and stared into the dark void Baxter disappeared
come
into.
on.
Right this way. You could kind of see his arm in the doorway, and Baxter motioned for you to follow. You had anticipated being surprised by where he was taking you, but this was more unusual than even his usual fare. Going inside, you struggled to see anything without the tiny rays of light filtering through the doorway. Baxter still found your hand and began to lead you forward. No explanations were offered. Instead, Baxter acted under the assumption that you'd blindly come with him. And he was right. Baxter went ahead with confident steps. You trusted him enough to believe this wasn't a mistake. Wherever the two of you were, he at least knew the pitch-black hallway. He found precisely where to reach to open another door. In the nearly black void, you caught a faint echo of your own footsteps stepping by his side next to you. The door felt like a glass under your fingertips. Baxter lightly squeezed you and then let go. Wait here, please. I'll get the lights. There was nothing else to do. Listening closely, you could hear Baxter's step bounce around the presumably open space as he strolled ahead. He moved further and further away until you heard the loud click of a multi-switch being flipped. Several rows of lights zapped into succession. Lights flashed into their brightness and blinded you, shielding your face. You were aware of Baxter moving in your direction.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I should have warned you. Are you alright? Squinting, your blurry sight gradually adjusted. You finally got an idea of where you were. A big, nearly empty room with shiny tiled floor. It was strange. Something was familiar about the picture, almost like you'd seen this room before. That was it. You had seen it before. Specifically in the photos Scott and Jude sent before their wedding. This must have been where they practiced with Baxter. Is this your work building? Correct. Baxter revealed the ring of keys hooked around his finger and spun it, his expression impish. If we're being technical, we're long closed for the day. However, I happen to have keys. Miss Perfect, are we going to be arrested for breaking and entering, you joked? Are you kidding me? You were shocked. Actually, you can't do that, you scolded. Wow. I had no idea what to say. Are we going to be arrested? No, not at all. I'm allowed to visit any time, even when customers are not.
Of course.
What if I needed to access a file in the office? Weddings, as you know, are a juggling act of many moving pieces. The difficulty would only increase if the work fell exclusively within the window of set hours. Yeah. A single wedding was chaotic enough, but planning them as a career could easily be more than a full-time job. He'd have to be ready to tackle needs and demands whenever they hit. Exactly. The higher powers that be understand we do what we must. I can come and go from the building as I please.
Honestly.
Though bringing a day here is not entirely an expected reason for coming. Personally, I'd say this still counts as job adjacent. You're helping me maintain my professional dancing form. The owners are highly understanding.
See?
Excuses are only necessary if we're caught, which might not even happen. Mischief twinkled in his eyes. He seemed so certain in his abilities that you had to believe Baxter would never be taken to task for the stunt. There was no way you could have predicted the situation if you tried. Baxter was an enigma. Mom and Liz were right to threaten to call the cops. You're a criminal.
Maybe.
Only in a certain light. One moment, please. Holding up a single digit, Baxter politely dipped his head and then went to the counter by the far wall. He was messing with something there, but you couldn't tell while you walked to the center of the room. Soon you'd have a dance together. Soon you and him could share the floor for your own dancing. You didn't want to dance yourself, but Baxter could demonstrate the steps. We would dance together. Already lost in thought and imagining a song, you tapped your foot and spun on your toes. A few snickers bubbled up from the silliness. Your belly said only improved since last time. It'd been a while, but you remained decent. Unfortunately, you'd kind of forgotten how to dance. I still know how to dance, and my skills are just getting better. And you were eager to show him. There was no way Baxter wasn't going to be impressed by your growth as a dancer. The light steps you had at the wedding couldn't compare. Music began to play, and Baxter promptly returned to the center of the room. He hummed along with the melody. Baxter placed a hand across his heart.
You know.
As you know, I enjoy a nice waltz around the room. However, I'm not a one-trick pony, and I'm not selfish enough to only want to stick with my expertise. Is there any particular style you prefer? I could teach you anything you'd have in mind, the best of my ability, or vice versa if you know better. I'm open to experimentation. I say I'd love to have a waltz. There are other styles I enjoy. I want to do something different. Different. Nodding, his respect for your decision morphed to enthusiasm that left him eager to get started.
Exciting.
Trying to keep me on my toes? What did you have in mind? Though I must emphasize that I have a varying amount of expertise with other styles. Some I know almost as well as ballroom, others not so much. That's why we're practicing here. Yes, indeed, we have appropriate music for. Baxter elaborated the options, and ultimately you chose salsa. I think it'd be fun. But that Baxter showed you a remote you'd never seen before. The question bounced on the tip of your tongue, but your gaze trailed towards the back of the room, and the answer struck. It was obvious once you realized the sound system was hidden behind the counter, and he must have grabbed the remote when he was there. Baxter swapped through the music tracks until he found something that was sufficiently salsa-esque. Then he slipped the remote into his jacket pocket. Oh, look at that! We are gonna hold his hand as he dances us around the room. Like a proper gentleman, Baxter extended his hand to you, and you gladly took it. Baxter gradually tightened his grip and was searching for a sign that you were ready to begin. You answered him with a happy nod, and he pulled you up to his chest. You knew enough to tell how it was entirely unnecessary to begin with your bodies brushing against each other. But you also knew that you wouldn't want anything different. The salsa was a non-stop combination of thrilling spins, twists, and turns. Baxter had warned you that there were limits to his knowledge and experience, and you could see them here. Salsa was difficult for him, but he also wasn't shying away from the challenge. Some motions were made with intense focus, and others much clumsier, but underneath it all, there was a joy that permitted his every action. You paced and poised, shining both as a dancer and as a teacher. It wasn't long before you both fell into harmonious step. Then the music shifted. The conclusion of the current song was on the horizon, and you just knew that this was going to be the conclusion. Dance ended with Baxter dipsing you. Dance concluded you did Baxter. Baxter spun you out as the song ended. When the song ended, you spun Baxter out. The song came to an end, and you both came together. We're going to dip him! He moved to hold the upper half of Baxter's back and his waist. His lips hooked into a grin, and he allowed himself to relax into your arms. You stepped forward and easily dipped him. Baxter dramatically popped a leg in the air. Your eyes stayed locked in on one another. Your breath was heavy, and the music ends to your left. You both suspended in silence. Baxter's gaze was distracting enough that you almost missed it when he cupped your face. His thumb tenderly brushing your cheek, your skin felt electrified under his touch. He moved slowly at first, but then his lips rapturously pressed into yours, sliding your arms past his neck. You curled your fingers into his and deepened the kiss. You hoped that you would have a chance to witness Baxter this happy again 1,000,000 times more. You're so wonderful. That was fun. You still got it. Thanks for the dance, my good sir. You tried to catch your breath. You still got it. Your boisterous cheer put a prideful smirk on his face. Baxter readjusted his collar.
Mm-hmm.
I do, don't I?
Bravo.
You danced beautifully, James. You knew it was time to let go of Baxter, but you really didn't want to, and he also struggled with the same dilemma. It didn't help that the room felt strangely different now that the music was off. There was so much calm after the storm, even if it was the good kind of storm. Sliding backwards, Baxter made sure there was enough room for you, and then gave you a grand bow. He stared up at you from between the strands of his bangs before standing straight up again. Might I get you a drink after so much exertion? From where? There's a water cooler right at the back. He didn't even need to check. Baxter nudged his head towards something past his shoulder. Leaning, you peeked past him and spotted it instantly. Oh. Yeah, water would be great. You accepted his offer. You snogged. You shrugged. Snogged! We snogged! I don't even know what that word is. You shrugged. You shook your head. I'm alright. Yes, water would be great. His lips pressed into a sweet smile, and then Baxter turned on his heels.
I can do that.
2 waters coming up. Baxter sauntered to the water cooler and fetched you both something to drink. A minute later, passed you a full cup of water. Damn. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, remember to like. That way I know you're enjoying the content I'm making. Remember to subscribe. That way YouTube brings you back here to see what happens next, and I won't take up any more of your time. I hope you have a good day. I'll see y'all next time. Goodbye.